Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, the podcast covering all things soccer in the Queen City. So get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Now, here's your host, Nick Suberling.
What's happening, CSTers? Welcome to episode 126 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Glad you're with us. It's beginning to feel a lot more like Major League Soccer around these parts of town. FC Cincinnati finally announcing their first two Major League Soccer signings. We'll introduce you to those two signings here in just a minute. We've got an action-packed show for you in store this week, so make sure you get in touch with us on Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. We're also going to open up the phone lines a little bit later on. The Kings Hammer hotline, 513-399-KICK. Brad Weigel standing by ready to take your call. We're also going to be joined by William Conwell. He is a writer over at Stumptown Footy, which is a great name for a soccer blog. Stumptown Footy covers Portland Timbers, and that is we're having him on because obviously the Portland Timbers is now a FC Cincinnati player, Fanendo AD. So we'll talk about that here a little bit later on in the show. As I mentioned, you can always email us feedback at cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Get in touch with us on the Kings Hammer hotline and Twitter as well tonight. Captains. Give it up to Jason DeBrewer for being our episode captain this week. Jason, thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We really do appreciate you helping us out and wearing the armband for this episode of CST. If you're interested in learning more about how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support, where you can find out all cool, fun stuff that we're doing over at CST. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters, as I call them each and every week. These guys are my best buds in life. What can I say? They're like my family now. Every Monday we get to hang out and we talk a little soccer. So I'm going to start with Brian Weigel. Brian, how are you, buddy?
A little emotional today, are we, pal?
Yeah, with good reason. It was a good day, big day for FC Cincinnati. Feelings
high and low, fighting off Twitter warriors, hugging your favorite FC Cincinnati supporters on such a momentous day. It was all fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and obviously big news for the club, signing the first two players. And I know you, being the guy who formerly covered Major League Soccer and other avenues, I'd say this was probably an exciting day for you as well.
Yeah, we went out to lunch with my dad today, and I was just we were trying to bring him up to speed on what this meant and how it all worked, and I just couldn't believe that FC Cincinnati brought in a player of this caliber right away. So it's amazing. I still feel like I have to pinch myself, but I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. When we heard the news about some of these guys that FC Cincinnati were bringing in, I think we all kind of did a double take, like, whoa, this is really happening. So excited to get your take as always. Let's also welcome in Rob Pierce to the show. Rob, how are you?
Hey, Subes. Good evening, everybody. I was at lunch trying to catch up with all the news, all that was going on. I only get 30 minutes for lunch. And with all the hoopla around the signings, it made me realize that international friendly that was 2 days ago, it really felt like 2 weeks ago. So much has gone on since then. I did not go to the friendly. I did watch it on TV. I was afraid of having, just a little bit of supporter fatigue. You're talking about 6 weekends in a row going to matches and all that comes with it. But with these two big signings today, Adi and Alashe, I'm fired up and can't wait to get back to Nippert.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting days there for FC Cincinnati. And the fact that they were able to get two quality MLS guys to essentially join them for the end of the 2018 season in USL, and obviously next year when things go forward with Major League Soccer. So Rob did a good job a few weeks ago of writing a piece on our website about the financials and how it all works with Major League Soccer. I'm sure we will be discussing that tonight, getting down to the nitty-gritty, what all these acronyms of TAM and GAM and WHAM and SPAM and all that other jazz. We're going to be talking about that tonight here on CST. And last but not least, we welcome into the show Mr. PTO himself, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. Boston, how are you, buddy?
Doing well. Supporter fatigue. Come on, Grandpa Rob. Six home games in a row is exciting. I drove all the way back from Indianapolis to catch the friendly. Attendance was down, but it was still a pretty awesome event. And I got my sweet poster to add to my collection because I'm a obsessed maniac. But excited for the news. Great week. Pittsburgh lost and fell out of second place, didn't they? Or it's close. And Nashville lost to Toronto. Man, you couldn't ask for a better week.
Yeah, it was a good week for FC Cincinnati. They gained ground in the East without even having to play a USL match. So that's always a good thing for the Orange and Blues. So let's start off, though, with the big news, and we'll touch on the announcement of the contract extension of Alan Koch a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk about the friendly with Espanyol as well. But I think really the headliner and the big thing people are tuning in for right now is to learn a little bit more about FC Cincinnati's two newest signings. So let's introduce you to these gentlemen right now. I shouldn't say introduce them because they're not coming on our show live, but we can at least fill you in a little bit about who they are. First up, we'll start with Fanendo Adi. For those of you who are familiar with Major League Soccer, you know that this guy has had quite the time there in the Portland Timbers system. Played a striker there. He won the Major League, won MLS Cup of years ago back in 2015 with Portland. He's also got Champions League experience, not just with the UEFA Champions League over in Europe, but CONCACAF Champions League as well. He scored 54 goals in 126 games, and he will be known forever as the first designated player in FC Cincinnati history. So that's another one of those terms you're going to be hearing a lot these days, designated player. So, Bri, for those FC Cincinnati fans who are new to Major League Soccer and some of their terminology, why don't we go over it again? Can you explain what a designated player is?
Sure. Well, to be as brief as I possibly can, you have a wide different arrays of classes of player in Major League Soccer. In the top end, what they call a max contract player in Major League Soccer is called designated player. Essentially, it's a person who represents the most amount of money that the league will pay for a player, which is $504,375. So you can pay a player more than that, but that's how much he counts versus your cap. So with Fanendo Adi, he's going to be making $1.9+ million going into 2019. So, but he'll only count roughly 500,000+, whatever the new number is for 2019, towards FC Cincinnati's cap. So, people call it the David Beckham rule. It's essentially a rule in a way that Major League Soccer can bring in top quality talent. You see Wayne Rooney, you've seen Zlatan Ibrahimovic, so stuff like that are marketable players. And he's definitely a quality player. I think he's one of the top 25 highest paid players in Major League Soccer, Fanendo Adi. So, it's great to go out and get somebody this big this early.
It's a huge signing for FC Cincinnati. He's still quite young, only 27. So it's not like we're getting somebody who is coming over for Europe, or coming over from Europe, I should say, and quote unquote retiring out here in Major League Soccer. He's still a really young talent and has really scored a lot of goals. And I remember it was a big deal back when they brought him to Portland from FC Copenhagen. I mean, that was a big signing for Portland at the time. Well,
yeah, and he came in as like a minimum max, like not necessarily minimum. I think he made like 600,000 his first couple of years in Major League Soccer. So now this guy's proven he's a proven commodity, which is something to be said there. FC Cincinnati bottom low, but I mean, this is a guy that should still be able to provide us double-digit goals, provided he can get on the field and provided the correct service. So this guy, as I said, proven commodity. He's proven that he's worth the dollars. Yes, right now on his current form, he looks a little bit overpaid, but for how much we traded for him in targeted allocation money and his general allocation money, it's actually a fairly good bit of business when you compare it to several other players around Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and again, this is a guy who he fits the bill. I mean, he produces when he's on the field, when he's healthy. I can't say that he's been 100% healthy. Wasn't last year. I think he ended the year injured. Hasn't really gotten a lot of run this year with Portland. Just 3 goals in 14 games, if I remember that correctly. But this is a guy, Rob, who, look, when we heard FC Cincinnati was signing, I think we all raised our eyebrows a little bit.
I was one of them. What I'm wondering is what kind of formation he will play in. I like the 4-4-2 with Ledesma having the freedom to roam. And FCC didn't use the 4-2-3-1 with a striker of Adi's caliber up top and with Nas as the central attacking midfielder. I don't doubt Ledesma's service from the wing, but I like that he can use some of that creativity. So I'm just kind of wondering where he might fit into everything.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for FC Cincinnati is, and I don't think that this happened over the last two matches, but I think the trend, or you're seeing the trend of maybe the forwards up top are hitting a little bit of a wall. Koenig obviously on a torrid pace this year with goals. He can't play every game. I think that a lot of us were counting on Emery Walshman to have a much bigger impact than he has. That unfortunately just hasn't been the case, and obviously he's still serving his suspension. Now you bring in a guy like Adi, who's a proven goal scorer in Major League Soccer, and Boston. This has probably a lot of USL teams in the Eastern Conference now wondering, well, what do we do? Do we mark Adi? Do we have Ledesma? I mean, now you got to pick your poison.
Right, and we definitely have thrown the USL into a tailspin today, and understandably so. FC Cincinnati probably is top, if not top two, already in the United Soccer League, which doesn't have a salary cap. So then you add a $1.9 million player. I think it's fair to say that most, if not all, of the United Soccer League's teams we play against don't even have a $1.9 million roster. So it's fairly complicated, and you saw a lot of people online today from other teams, especially criticize the move. The USL doesn't seem to have any protections in place, but then again, the USL hasn't had to deal with a designated player coming into their league before. We've seen smaller MLS. We've seen Orlando make their transition up, and even Atlanta and Minnesota kind of moved some players down every now and then as they were growing and adding players into their teams. But it's just a whole new field. It's kind of fun, just to navigate it.
It's exciting. I know I'm pumped. The fact that they brought in a designated player who's going to be playing in USL and just adding that much more firepower to a team that's already doing really well in the Eastern Conference and, in fact, USL overall. I believe right now they are the leading point getter in USL. They have leapfrogged some of those teams out in the Western Conference. So you add Adi to the mix. You add another gentleman to the mix in Fatai Alashe. And let's fill you in a little bit more about Fatai and how he joins FC Cincinnati. This is a gentleman who is coming over from the San Jose Earthquakes. He was the fourth overall pick back in 2015 in the MLS Super Draft after playing a stellar career here in the Midwest at Michigan State. Over his time with San Jose, he's made 85 appearances, and 69 of those being starts. So this is a guy who's played a lot of Major League Soccer minutes in a short amount of time. He scored 5 goals throughout that time and had 3 assists. He's the defensive midfielder. So he's not a guy that's going to come in and score you a lot of goals, but I think this is a huge pickup for FC Cincinnati. If you look at the fact that right now Richie Ryan injured, Michael Luhud, he's up there at age as well. So they needed some depth there at the central defensive midfielder spot, the holding mid. He's also got some international experience as well. He played on the U23 squad for the U.S. men's national team, where he started 6 games and scored a couple of goals in the red, white, and blue. He's actually joining FC Cincinnati on a season-long loan or season-ending loan. So he is still on the books at San Jose, but he will officially be on the FC Cincinnati books starting next year. He was acquired via trade in exchange for $60,000 in MLS targeted allocation money and $75,000 in general allocation money. So, Bri, this is a guy who we know recently had a falling out there in San Jose. It was much publicized with head coach Michael Starry. Not sure what to make. When you see this signing, though, this is I don't want to say buy low because I think that's unfair to him. Coming from San Jose, the worst team in Major League Soccer. but he's going to the best team in USL now. This is a great chance for him to really kind of get things going again.
But it's 100% buy low. Yeah, and you might not like that terminology, but this is a player, I think we paid 135 in various allocation monies. This is a guy that should be fetching double or triple that, honestly, when you look at how some of the trades have been going in Major League Soccer as of late. This guy's, as you said, he's had a falling out. He had a knee injury last year that kind of set him back a little bit there. You shake up, the leadership core in San Jose, bringing in a new head coach, and sometimes guys just don't fit in. It's a guy who's a former U.S. Youth International, is part of the U.S. Olympic qualifying team. He's got a ton of upside. Now, is he going to come in and is Coach Koch going to write his name in pen and say, this is my D-mid starter in 2019? I'm not sure that's the case, but I think he's at least in the conversation. And, if this guy performs well, treats his preseason as a professional, comes in, impresses, this is a guy that has all the tools to become a U.S. men's national team player all of a sudden. Again, he was called up in 2016. So again, great buy low signing. I think this is a low risk signing. He's only making like $120,000. So it's not like he's a huge big money deal. So I think this honestly was probably the best part of business handled so far today.
So he joins coming over from San Jose Earthquakes. Again, this is a really young, talented soccer player who is going to make an impact. I think he's going to make a big impact for the USL season to end the year for FC Cincinnati, provide some more depth at a position where we're kind of unsure of what's going on there with Richie Ryan coming back. The one thing you can say, I'll throw this over to you, Rob, is we get a little bit more athletic at the defensive midfielder position.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's hope that I think all he really needs is a change of scenery. There's still plenty of upside for this guy. And what I'm interested to see is what somebody like Michael Lahoud can do in terms of mentoring him.
Yes, good point.
This is a different conversation to have, but it stresses the importance of having somebody like Lahoud make the leap to the MLS next year. He really has Lahoud has a great chance to be that kind of glue that binds everybody together, and I think he could do a world of good for how do I say
Alashe.
it? Thank you very much.
So real quick, and I'm sorry, Boston, taking up your time here, but this is a guy who's compared to Ricardo Clark by Dom Kinnear, who's one of the great US or MLS coaches. And this guy, I mean, he's a quality player, and it's kind of what you said there, Rob. We're talking on how who would make the transition to Major League Soccer on this USL club, and this is a chance. If you're Alan Koch and you see Richie Ryan, Corbin Bone, Kenny Walker, one of these guys, Lahoud, bond with Alashe, that's who you take, honestly. But it's a big it's a long subject, but that's the forethought I could see these guys having in this whole sequence.
Regardless, it's two big signings for FC Cincinnati, and what we would say a good bit of business for Luke Sassano, technical director for FC Cincinnati, and Alan Koch, head coach. To learn a little bit more about Fanendo Adi, we thought we'd get in touch with some folks out in the Pacific Northwest to fill us in a little bit. So let's welcome to the King's Hammer hotline William Conwell. He is a writer over at Stumptown Footy, which is a tremendous name for a soccer blog. He joins us now on the King's Hammer hotline. William, thanks for joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Fill us in a little bit. What is FC Cincinnati getting right now in Fanendo Adi?
Well, I mean, when you look at Adi, you see a big guy. You see someone who is going to have a real physical presence that he can impose on defenses. But what you don't necessarily see at first is also the fact that, this is a player with surprisingly soft feet. He's got a deft touch. He can make his touches count. So I think that in Adi, you guys are getting a guy who's a surprisingly well-rounded soccer player, despite the fact that looking at him, it's very easy to pigeonhole him as, kind of a big guy up top.
One of the things I noticed over the weekend in seeing some of the videos of his final game there in Portland is how loved he really was by the fan base. I guess watching from afar, I didn't realize, and I know Portland's obviously got a rabid fan base there, William, but I guess I didn't realize how beloved he had become in his short time there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who came into this Timbers club and really made the forward position his own. He stamped himself on the team pretty much immediately. It took him a little while to adjust to MLS, but it was pretty clear from the get-go that he was a player who's going to make an impact. And when you're able to do that while still fitting in with the community and taking part in all the sort of community-centric stuff that the Timbers have done a really great job of as a team and individually, you're going to win over the hearts and minds of people. And Adi did a great job of that.
Hey, William, Rob Pierce here. I was just wondering what the dip in Adi's form was in 2018. Did it really just boil down to a coaching change?
Well, you can definitely put part of it on the change in sort of approach to the game between Caleb Porter and Gio Cervese. So, that's definitely part of it. The other part of it, though, is that, Adi, over the last year and a half has had a few knocks that he's had to deal with. And he's come back from them, but it is something that he's suffered more recently than he did in his first few years with the team. Now, that being said, with the sort of emphasis on the sort of defense-first turnaround for the Timbers this year, although Adi got a couple of goals when the Timbers' current unbeaten run started, he didn't have quite the same fit that a high-energy guy like Samuel Armenteros, a high-movement guy like Samuel Armenteros, was going to. So, there's certainly multiple factors, but I think that you can't discount some of the injury issues that he has had recently in terms of looking at what he's done this year and what he might otherwise have done with the Timbers.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate your thoughts. Something I guess I wanted to build on is why would Portland at this point be willing to trade one of their designated players? Is this a good move for Portland, a good move for Cincinnati, or is someone winning, losing here?
Well, looking at it from a Portland first perspective, I think there are a few factors to touch on. So first is Samuel Armenteros. Armenteros has been just white hot the last few games. He's, since that usual sort of adjusting to the league period, he's done everything the Timbers would have wanted from a striker. And although he's on a TAM deal this year, next year the scuttlebutt is that he'll be, or his salary will be going up to in the designated player range. So when you have a guy who is as talented as Armenteros, talented enough to, like I was saying, maybe a better fit with the system to put Adi on the bench, although you certainly would want to hang on to a player like Adi, he's got to go somewhere where he is going to play and where he is going to be in a good situation for his career. And I think that really plays a large part of this. On the monetary side, I mentioned the possibility that the Timbers are going to need a designated player slot next year, but the fact is the Timbers are more or less always running right at the edge of the amount of allocation money of both types that you can spend. And while this, I guess, transfer fee for Adi that Cincinnati's paying, isn't the Dom Dwyer craziness, it's a hefty chunk of change. And for a guy who is, currently second on the depth chart, and, who's had the injury issues that I was talking about earlier, keeping him off the pitch for the last, little while. I think that if you can get this sort of deal, if you're the Timbers, you have to take it. MLS, although, you want to win now, you also have to be playing for the next couple of years. And I think the most successful clubs do that. And it hurts a little bit, but the Timbers, had to take what they can get, really, especially when they've got a guy who wants to be the number one somewhere, and, is asking for a transfer because of it.
Hey, Will, Brian here. I appreciate you coming on, man. This is going to be kind of a honest answer from you here. This guy's on a ton of money. Base salary one and a quarter, total compensation 1.9 million plus. Is he really worth that much money in Major League Soccer these days? And is this a type of deal that might hamstring a new club like FC Cincinnati?
I think that Adi is a guy who is worth a designated player slot. Beyond a certain point, I think it's all academic what you're paying a guy, as long as you acknowledge that you are giving a spot to him. But when you look at Adi, you're getting a player that, while he's not going to put up the Martinez number of goals, he's going to be up there in the scoring ranks. And if you can build a team that has the sort of supporting players that can chip in a number of goals of their own, he's the sort of guy who is really going to open up a lot of space for them, just because of his physicality and his ability to occupy multiple defenders, both just with his presence and with, his ability for players to play off of him. So, in the right system, I think Fanendo Adi is absolutely worth it. When you've got players that are going to work with him and work around him, he's going to create space for them, and ultimately they're going to create space for him. And that's why he can be so successful. So worth it, definitely. As far as for Cincinnati in particular, I think that, it's hard to say at this point, but with the amount of resources that clubs coming into the league have these days, and the amount of flexibility in terms of building a team, I think that when you have a piece like Adi, it really gives you a strong direction in how you want to build your team going forward. And, as long as he fits in with the rest of the guys that are signed and, are playing in year one, then, you can be in a really strong position right off the bat.
Well, I know folks here in Cincinnati are pretty excited. We're excited to be seeing you a couple of times next year in Major League Soccer. William, we appreciate you being with us, and we'll make sure to spread the word about Stumptown Footy. What a great blog name. I love it.
Thanks.
That's William Conwell joining us from Stumptown Footy, and he covers the Portland Timbers for SB Nation's blog over there, Stumptown Footy, so go check it out. Appreciate William being with us here on the King's Hammer Hotline. It's that time of the show now where we give a big shout-out and thanks to our tremendous supporters, Tim Bronsel with King's Hammer, Matt Adamczyk, Mama Subs, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Jesse Gill, Kathleen Francis, Jesse King, and Teresa Everidge. Thank you so much for your tremendous support here of CST. We're pleased that you help us out each and every month. To learn more about how you can support the show, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Get signed up this week, because next week is the first week of the month, and that is when we announce every name of every single supporter of CST. So make sure you go do that over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Well, our own Bill Wolf had a chance to attend the press conference today of the announcement of Fanendo Adi and Fatai Alashe. And here are a couple of comments and quotes he got from the guys there at the presser at Nippert Stadium.
I had a lot of tears in the plane coming because luckily in the plane you have Wi-Fi, and I was looking at my Twitter and I saw so many write-up videos, and that made me shed a lot of tears. And it's very emotional. Of course, it took me a few maybe weeks to just get over the whole thing in Portland, because Portland is part of the family to me now. I've stayed there for over 4 years, so I left a legacy there to try something new. So it's beautiful, but some beautiful things have to come to an end, and I'm ready for this next chapter. It's going to be, I think, even more beautiful. So it's an opportunity in football. The opportunity came up, and I had to take it. Of course, it's a very huge decision for me to make, to come and play in the USL. Of course, what am I going to achieve now playing in the USL? Not much, but to help a club that has shown me so much love and respect, to be able to convince me to come here, says a lot. So it's an opportunity I had to take. Of course, it's not long. It's just a few months, and we'll be back into the MLS. So I'm happy to be here. That's the most important thing, and I'm looking forward to it.
I think we have a lot of potential. Obviously the guys are doing pretty well already without the additions. So I think what's important is that we, bring our quality, and we do still have to prove ourselves. We have to earn a spot in the team. And I think it's just important to show the guys that we're here to help, and hopefully we can find a way to win some trophies. There's big differences between this and where I was in San Jose, but you can definitely feel the vibe in this locker room, the energy. Guys are excited. Guys know that we have a big opportunity to do really cool things this year, and you can see that just day in and day out in the locker room.
Not at all, actually. I think Alan has obviously demonstrated that he has a complete control over his team, obviously in the locker room, and you can see it on the field. And I think as you start to make a move to a league that is competitive like the MLS, you are always going to have big personalities and guys that have played in different places at higher levels. But at the end of the day, it's a locker room, and to be able to manage it takes a strong personality, and that's what, thankfully for us, that's what Alan has. And we're just excited to continue to add to our already talented group with two guys that we think are going to be very helpful as we make this push and also into next year.
We've been incredibly resourceful, obviously, to build the group that we have up until today. Obviously now we're adding to it, and now we're preparing ourselves not just for the rest of the season, but obviously for next year too. So we say it every day: squeeze the most out of your players. We've just added 2 extra pieces to our club today, which is exciting, and we'll continue to squeeze everything out of every single player that we have. Well, just to do your roster as an expansion team all just in one window or in just one moment is very, very difficult. And we preach about the culture of our group, the players that have the first opportunity to be part of our group. Next year are the guys that we have right now. So those are the players that we're assessing every single day to see who from that group we're going to take, and we will definitely take some of those players. The number is definitely not determined yet. So that's a group that we know we have confidence in, those guys, that we can take them with us. But now to get another 2 obviously adds to it, and then we know all the different mechanisms that are ahead of us, obviously the expansion draft, the draft, free agency. I think if we can get a few players from all the different mechanisms, will allow us to build a very, very good team for next year.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think they're going to be excited for us. Really, one reason why I'm here this morning, this is one more important milestone, in our MLS journey. And every one of them is so much fun at this point. So, we're just looking forward to the next one.
Well, listen, we embrace competition, and we do want to win. And we want to win, as I said, not just for the guys in the locker room and for the staff and owners. We want to win for the city. The city's hungry for that kind of success. We want to have we were so thrilled with what happened on May the 29th at Fountain Square. We want to have another party on Fountain Square, and that's going to drive us every single day.
So there you have it, a couple quotes and comments from, we first heard from Fanendo, then Fatai, Alashe, then it was Luke Sassano, the technical director for FC Cincinnati, obviously head coach Alan Koch, Carl Leonard III, and Jeff Birding. I wanted to specifically end that with the comment from Jeff about that a very exciting party, hopefully happening down at Fountain Square. So look, it was really a big day for FC Cincinnati, their first ever DP signing. Another solid young midfielder to join the crew for or I shouldn't say the crew, that's a bad example, this group for the 2018 season. I know you wanted to add one more thing, Bri, regarding Fanendo Adi.
Well, yeah. And if you want to call and talk about this stuff too, guys, we're going to open up the phone lines. But I'm just a little bit interested to see how this all plays out with Adi, especially because he's still not signed yet to the USL roster, even though they were talking about it through the whole press conference today that he's joining the team. They're going to get into training and everything. And then, of course, Sam Stetsgoal of Major League Soccer.com reports that they could potentially loan, FC Cincinnati could potentially loan Adi out to Montreal Impact. So, why I'm super excited and you want to be all gung-ho on this signing, it's just kind of like, there's always something else. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
So do you really think that's going to happen? I mean, they talked about it today that he was joining the USL squad for the end of the 2018 season. And by the way, forward is a position they need some help at. They're getting nothing from forward 2 and 3 right now. They need some more goals from up top.
Boston, you want to take it?
Yeah, Montreal's a little bit desperate. They've been after a forward for a little while, actually, making offers around the league on different signings. They went to Portland before we did and tried to sign Adi. So this is their attempt number 2 at picking him up. It honestly depends on how desperate they are. If they're willing to throw, a ridiculous amount of cash at FC Cincinnati, I don't see how the club could turn it down and go ahead and send him over there. We kind of have an embarrassment of riches already. However, I think more realistically, you will see him stay here in the USL because Montreal is probably just going to offer to cover his salary or maybe have a small fee that they'll pay, but it still won't be worth it. I think ultimately Jeff Birding and Carlander are dead set on winning a USL trophy this year.
I mean, I think the biggest holdup in this, Boston, and we've talked about the soft line, is if there's any hiccup in the acquisition of Adi, the mechanism that they use, whether that's a loan or if it's FC Cincinnati, Major League Soccer entity buys from Portland Timbers and then loans to USL, FC Cincinnati soccer entity. So a lot of questions, but I'm sure we'll have some callers that'll want to talk about it.
Look, for me personally, that's a big risk if you go loan him out. This is a guy. Sure. Let's remember this. He's not exactly the healthiest guy. He's had a lot of knocks the last couple of years. So for me, it's a big risk loaning him out to Montreal. If you loan him up to Montreal and something happens to him, he's not ready for next season, that's a big blow. I mean, that's a lot of money and and this is your designated player for next season. So if you're gonna risk him, why don't you risk him towards something that could bring a potentially a championship to Cincinnati? I mean, when you hear these rumors, Rob, you've got to be thinking to yourself, no way they let him go to Montreal.
Yeah, I'm with you that there's always a chance for injury, and he could be injured at Nippert Stadium in his first game. And certainly
shut your face, Rob Pierce.
Certainly none of us want that to happen. But if it's going to happen, I would prefer that maybe FCC can get some points or on the path to the playoffs in the process. So yeah, I don't see any benefit at all to loaning him out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope that does not happen, but I guess if they get some sort of ridiculous offer that Luke Sassano and Alan Koch and Jeff Birding can't pass up, maybe they take it. I don't see that being the case, but I guess we'll see. So as Brian mentioned, we have opened up the phone lines. Brad is ready to take your calls, 513-399-KICK. We see a lot of great questions on Facebook and YouTube. This is your chance to get in and have your say. A lot of folks wanting to talk about the new signings, what it means for current players going forward. So make sure you get in touch with us on the Kings Hammer hotline, 513-399-KICK, 513-399-KICK. Let's go to the Kings Hammer hotline. Let's welcome in Michael to the show. Michael, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good down here in Louisville. Listening to all your all's big news up there. Congratulations on the day.
Thank you, Michael. Obviously, we know you're a Louisville supporter. I got to get your take on when you see this news as a Louisville supporter. How do you feel?
Man, 24 hours ago is kind of a different experience. We're looking at the trades and we're thinking, okay, well, if they're paying all cash for everything, I'm fine with that. Cash is king, and that's how the business runs. But when everything comes through the day and we're using this money that I know you guys have access to it, don't get me wrong, I get that. But it's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, I guess, is what I would say. But it just seems really odd that the MLS money is going to come down in effect. I truly do think it's going to affect the playoffs. I don't see who's going to be able to stop you guys now.
Now, let me ask you this question. And again, I'm not faulting you for that take because I can see your point there. But I don't see, there's no rules right now. USL has no rules preventing this. Is this an FC Cincinnati problem or is this a USL problem?
Oh, it's a USL problem, and that's kind of what we talked about. But USL is going to be beholden to MLS as the time is being right now. You can't fault for somebody finding a workaround and using it to their advantage. It does suck. It does suck for us. We don't have that kind of money. We don't have access to those funds. I don't think anybody does. Meanwhile, we're struggling to find a coach. You signed the two biggest possible signees of probably USL for the entire year in the last few years. So we're kind of licking our wounds down here. But I do think it is going to be quite a daunting task. And I think that a lot of the FCC fans I'm seeing on social media, Twitter, whatnot, are agreeing. But I'm seeing a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's not our fault. It's not our fault," and it's not. But what I really want from you all, I want you to play the villain. You got all this extra money, you got the best players, and you're coming for blood. There's no doubt about it. They were saying, Carl Linder was saying, we want to bring a championship to Cincinnati. Yeah, over the dead bodies of everyone else in the USL, man.
So to your point there, it seems like every year the USL has like one club that just pulls everybody forward. I honestly felt that was Tampa Bay last year that pulled everybody forward. New York a couple years ago showing that youth can win, pulled everybody forward a little bit. And now I'm showing, I feel like FC Cincinnati, even before these two signings, were really trying to, pull, the league forward. And I'm going to say these examples, I'm not trying to take anything personally, but you look at clubs like St. Louis FC that go out and sign, average at best players from the scrap heap of other clubs and call themselves improved. We really need USL fans really need to push that all these teams are going out there and trying to get better and better players. And when they see that this is possible, that some people are really going to start bringing in more expensive players. Now, of course, Adi is, of course, a unique level, but don't you think it's a good thing that you have somebody like this, whether they're the villain or not, bringing the league forward? I'm not trying to poke fun at Louisville because they're wonderful.
No.
How many Kyle Smiths can you find out there?
To your first point, putting together a scrap heap of players. You know what? I take that as a personal offense. That's how we won the USL championship. Besides Mark Anthony Kane, I don't know of many of the guys who are big name stars. We get your all's rejects and we take over. That brings me to a quick point. I can't wait till you guys go to MLS because you'll drop all the good players that you can't take with us, and we take those Cincinnati rejects and we turn them into stars.
There you go.
Hey, but no, you're right. It is great for the league, though. To your point, yeah, it definitely is, and it's putting a lot of more. It's going to put more eyeballs on the product, even though you're taking eyeballs with you to MLS. It is going to put more people, more butts in the seats,
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna play anti-Brian here because I was one of those people today that kind of felt the pain because. Really, let's be honest, FC Cincinnati, we didn't know where we were going to fall in this MLS expansion. We had a feeling it would be 2019, but there was a very realistic chance at some point Nashville could have been before us. And so I see that and realize that this could be Nashville's year. It was probably at one point pretty close to being Nashville's year. Or if we would have went in later after them, this could be them, and they could have been the ones doing it. And I think the USL got kind of a break, right? Because you had Orlando go up many years ago, even before Louisville, because you guys got their franchise. So they had done some similar moves, not extreme, but I believe they even had Dom Dwyer playing in the USL at the time. And then USL gets this break, right, where the league grows, they add all these teams, but they haven't had a major league expansion. Minnesota goes over in the NASL, and then you see 2 new expansion sides that aren't any lower division teams. They don't have, they don't pre-exist. And then all of a sudden we're back. We're back at the Orlando situation. The USL's grown leaps and bounds, and now they're presented with a situation. And so it's going to come down to, how do your owners react? How do Tampa's owners react? These guys are getting together this week. Do they want this exact same thing happening to them next year? Because it's going to, if something's not put in place.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a cart before the horse scenario. I think we're going to be reactionary to jump and say, we need to put something in place to make sure this doesn't happen again, because it's just unfair. But these players, at the end of the day, it's still a game. They got to go out there and play. You can put the best players on the field. I mean, let's be honest, Cincinnati has time in and time out signed some of the best talent that is available for second division soccer in America. I mean, now you're getting some of the best first division soccer in America and bring it to the second division. But that hasn't always worked. And are we going to do something about this now? I don't know. The reactionary for me, though, is, oh, my God, do something, because they're going to get Lionel Messi next week and they're going to kill everybody.
Well, the way I look at it, too,
I mean,
when you think about it, too, Michael, I mean, how many more markets in USL right now have legitimate chances of being that team like FC Cincinnati that had the wherewithal to go out and get an MLS player to come down and play for, I should say an MLS DP to come and play USL? It's probably pretty rare. Are you really going to make the changes for change's sake when it almost feels like this might be a one-off?
I mean, that's the thing. I don't know if it's going to be a one-off or this is the awakening. I don't know how many times we're going to do with this, but I'm telling you, probably the people in Nashville are taking note on
for sure. Oh, if they're not, they're crazy.
Yeah, and I think, you guys are the trailblazers here. I mean, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not illegal to call a kid ugly. It's not kosher either, but, you can't call a child ugly to their face. But what you're doing here is kind of the same. There's nothing wrong with it. It stings a lot. And I don't know if it's one of these situations that, we don't have access to it, if it's sour grapes. But you guys are already stacked. I mean, it's a daunting task already. You guys are up 6-8 points, and any one game in hand is still back 3 to 5 points.
Yep.
And then you go out and get this. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's going to be great. Does Cincinnati have the best chance of winning? Yes. I mean, odds on, I'd put them at the top of the heap right now to win it all.
Well, unfortunately, games are not played on paper, as you know, Michael, and they still got to do it out on the field. So we appreciate you chiming in. Always love your work there on the Twitter, and looking forward to seeing us play a couple weeks in Louisville.
Yeah, man. At least one of us is. I'm not looking forward to it, especially if the Montreal loan does not go through. So we got our fingers crossed. We're really hoping over there. So I might have to brush up on my French Canadian, make a few calls. But you know what, guys? It's always going to be fun, regardless, and it's going to be the last time. I wanted to say this, a little compliment to everybody up there. We had some issues in 2016 with fans up there, and I spoke to one of the capos of the Bastards over there, Dan Bloomfield, and they really took care of it. The last 2 times over there has been an absolute joy. Everyone was so nice, and if you get a chance to go up there for an away, if anybody's listening who's not a Cincinnati fan, you get a chance to go up there for an away day, go. Don't even think about it. Just go. It's a blast.
Well, we appreciate you telling us that, Mike. And as much as we hate our rival down south, we respect what you guys have done on the field for being a second division, really a third division team, moving up to Division II, winning a title like you did last year. I think we all respect what you guys have done down in Louisville too.
Hey, thanks, man. You guys have a good one, and can't wait to see you guys play Nashville this weekend.
Us too. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Joining us on the King's Hammer Hotline is, of course, Michael. We appreciate you chiming in. We're going to run a little bit late tonight. Obviously, we've got a lot to cover. So if you're watching us live, this is your chance, folks. Get in touch with us, 399 kick. Look, I see his gripe here, guys. I really do, but at the same time, there's no rules. There's nothing barring FC Cincinnati from doing what they're doing. Can you really hold it against them?
Not at all. What I'm particularly afraid of is all of a sudden in the playoffs, FC Cincinnati falls flat on their face. That would be embarrassing.
So you're talking about building us up so their victories taste sweeter?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. We're still going to whoop them.
I hope that's the case. I hope that is true.
The thing is, we got to get home field advantage because we're not going to risk Adi or Alashe or Paul Konate on that baseball field in Louisville.
After we had such niceties with Mike on the line, we had to go there. No.
Oh, I think they know.
Yes. Let's go back to the Kings Hammer hotline. Speaking of roster moves, let's go to Brad in Clifton. Brad, welcome to CST. How are you?
Hey, Subs. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you? Hey, no problem. What's your question tonight?
Hey, so I wanted to kind of follow off of what you guys were just talking about with our friend from Louisville there. It seems like they may be kind of trying to increase the expectations, so any potential loss would be more sweet. But
Sure.
on the flip side of that, and you have to understand that Cincinnati is always a team with a target on its back. What I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm sure you guys have too on social media, is now this idea that if Cincinnati, were to go win the championship, if, Adi is going to come in and play a bigger role as we're hoping he is, then it's immediately discredited as, well, they bought a trophy. They haven't had a playoff win, and they've just been shoveling money. This is the success that they would have. This potential success has just been bought. And what would be concerning to me is the fact that look at our position at this point, up until this point, before any of these guys had even hit the pitch, when we're still in first place. I have a feeling that naysayers are going to be discrediting our success, especially if Adi comes in and plays a big role. Do you guys think that's a position that you can relate to? I mean, put yourself in their shoes. Do you think it's reasonable then to say, if we do go on to win the league, if we do go on to do as great things as we're wanting to do, winning the regular season, winning the USL Cup, that, hey, you had an unfair advantage, you had money. Well, fairness isn't really what I'm getting here, but you basically threw the money to it. Whereas look at Louisville last year, who did it with a very short-staffed guy, with a very short-staffed roster. So I just wanted to see what you guys had to think about that sentiment that I'm sure you've been seeing out on social media.
Sure, Brad. I just wanted to throw out there, no trophy shinier than any other. Louisville's story is cool. It's their own. It's how they got there. New York Red Bulls did it with a big young trainee squad, and they went through the USL and cleaned up. Orlando's done it. Sacramento's done it. Everybody's done it a different way. It doesn't make it any less sweet for this city, a city that's starving for a championship. If the New York Yankees, they spend a ton of money and they've got a bunch of championships. And sure, people throw that around. Hey, you guys have more money than any other baseball team because the salary cap rules are kind of like USL's really in Major League Baseball. So they're still victories. They're still on their Wikipedia page. You can't take them away. Years later, you can argue all you want, but that trophy is the end-all, be-all. When we're fighting with Louisville fans on Twitter and they say, we won a championship last year, we legitimately have no response to that.
All right, so, Brad, you've seen, today on social media, we saw a member of the front office of a USL club actually openly complain about this issue today. And my response to them or anybody else in the fan base is, guess what? You saw us add Adi. You saw us add Alashe. We're probably adding a third player from what you heard today. What have those clubs done to counteract this? Sign a player. Don't have tryouts. Don't go get a college guy who flunked out and he has nothing else to do this summer. Go get a guy. And if you don't have a guy, then shut your mouth. You're not acting D2. You need to get your club better. I mean, I know that's brutally honest, but I mean, you have to make decisions to set your club up for the best future. And if you can't compete on this level with the big boys, then sorry.
And I'll kind of add on to that, Brad, with look. It's not FC Cincinnati's fault that the fans turn out in numbers like they do. It's not FC Cincinnati's fault that they can sell the jerseys that they can sell to help bring in these guys. It's not FC Cincinnati's fault that, they have a billionaire owner who is willing to invest in the club. He's playing by the league's rules. So for me, I don't feel bad for the league. The only thing that I am apprehensive about is all this chatter about FC Cincinnati, buying a championship or whatever you want to call it. I still pump the brakes and say, hey, can we win a freaking playoff game first? Let's just do that first, because I don't want to count the chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, and just to add on real quick.
Playoff team, very competitive. Good.
No, yeah, just to add on real quick, I think you will see FC Cincinnati lose another game this season. Despite all the money that's on the roster, these are still people. These are still games. It's still 90 minutes, and anything can happen. Getting to the playoffs is going to be tougher than everyone thinks. USL fans are freaking out across the league. You have to win 4 single elimination games every year. Multiple USL teams knock out Major League Soccer teams in the U.S. Open Cup. I don't care if those Major League Soccer teams are playing bench players. They still have 2 to 3 times the amount of money on their roster versus the USL roster. So it is any given day, and we need to take every game seriously, regardless of the millions of dollars that are sitting there on the field.
Brad, appreciate the call, man.
All right, thanks a lot. I agree with you guys. I really appreciate taking me in, and hopefully we have a good weekend against Nashville.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good way to end that call. I like that. Got to take 3 points against Nashville. Let's go back, though, to the Kings Hammer hotline, and let's welcome in Matt, who wants to talk about when we'll see these new players. Welcome to CST, Matt. How are you?
Thanks. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. What's on your mind?
Well, I was wondering, do you think these guys will get right in? Do you think there's a chance we could see them Saturday versus Nashville? I know sometimes when a new guy comes in, it takes a little while to gel or whatever, get some practice with the team. But obviously, with such a skill difference, even if they don't really have much time to do that, they could come in and make a difference right away. And I don't know if there's a question about this or anything, but do you think we'll see them on Saturday or at least within a couple games?
That's a tough, loaded question there, Matt. I know that right now I think FC Cincinnati is still waiting for Fanendo Adi to be added to the USL roster. I believe Alashe has been added to the roster since that is a loan, but I think there's still some work to be done as far as getting Fanendo Adi from MLS Cincy over to USL Cincy. So I think there's a little bit of a tie-up there. I think the plan right now is for these guys to get minutes this weekend. From what we're hearing, I don't know. This hasn't been confirmed. Nobody's come out and said that Adi's going to start this weekend. But I think obviously with it being a home game, getting a chance to introduce your new high-profile, high-paid player to the Cincy fan base would be huge. Bri, you got anything you want to add to that?
Well, in Boston or Rob, I have a difference of opinion here, but I think it's a heck of a lot more likely that you see Adi over Alashe just because there's a good partnership in that midfield already working. I think it's a little bit more difficult for a midfielder to come in right away and just to accept and understand the defensive scheme and when they need to move forward. Whereas I think that Adi, he's a target forward. He knows where to be. He knows how to make the runs. He knows where to be. Now, in practice, you kind of start to identify, if let's say Ledesma runs to the left wing, I need to be on the near post, vice versa to the far post, maybe cuts inside. So things like that will take time, but I think it's a lot more likely that you see the big guy starting up top than the younger midfielder.
Yeah, I think that's right. And one thing you have to remember is FC Cincinnati, they started the season with all these new faces, and they didn't look maybe quite as sharp as we wanted them to be as supporters. So there's going to be a little bit of learning curve. Adi, he's not going to be, well, we all hope he's pumping in goals right away, but there's possible that there might be a little bit of a learning curve there.
I mean, I know I'm hoping personally to see Adi trotted out this weekend. I don't see him starting, but maybe you bring him in the 70th or 80th minute like Koch has been doing. It's a big game. I mean, this is Nashville coming to town. They're wanting to get 3 points to get back on track for them. So this is a really big game for FC Cincinnati. This isn't one where you want to maybe tinker a little too much. But my guess is we won't see Adi play a whole lot if he does. But that's just my personal opinion, Matt.
Along those lines, I was wondering on your guys' take on how well the guys that have been in there all season. I mean, obviously, I think Alan Koch has a pretty high character locker room, and I think I like to think that everything will that they'll all get along, that everything will transition smoothly. What do you think of some of the guys who maybe who probably know that they're a long shot to make the MLS team, who've been contributing all year, and now they'll see maybe their minutes drop a little from this. I mean, I think it's just a matter of being a professional and going out and doing your job. But I guess as a fan, part of me is excited for the new players and a little sad that some of these guys who've been such a part of the team and the community will see maybe a little less of going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a tough question, Matt. Appreciate the call. We'll touch on that here a little bit. Obviously there's going to be some names that aren't going to see a lot of playing time as we bring new guys in. I look at the striker position with Adi. I look at the fact that right now they're just not getting any contributions behind Danny Koenig, and they need more goals at that position. And Koenig can't play every single minute the rest of the way. There's just no way he's going to be able to do it. So for me, I think you're looking possibly at a guy like Tomi Amiobi, but we haven't seen a whole lot of this year here, very sparingly in recent weeks. With the suspension of Walshman, we finally saw him on the field contribute for FC Cincinnati. Even then, it was a very spot moment there in extra stoppage time. Maybe he's a guy we won't be seeing much of here the rest of the way. As far as the central midfield goes, look, they're still nursing Richie Ryan back to health. Now, he's going to be an important guy moving forward. Kenny Walker played a lot of minutes last year. Can he really keep continuing at this pace? So it's tough to see what you're going to do in the midfield. But at forward, I think this is a coup for FC Cincinnati because they're adding some more depth there at the striker position. And in a pinch, you could play Koenig and Adi up top in a two-striker formation. So that's just my take. Matt, we appreciate you giving us a ring here on CST. We've got an email to get to here in just a moment. Of course, we've got phone lines open, 513-399-KICK. We know a few of you are holding, and we appreciate you holding on. We're going to go pretty late tonight. Lots to talk about. So, again, 513-399-KICK. Let's go to this email, though. This is from Claire, who writes in, hey, Cincinnati soccer talkers. I've got a question or two as we transition into Major League Soccer. We know FCC will be wanting to develop a youth academy. How would this coexist with any DA academy in the area, or would they become the same thing? For kids wanting to be in the U.S. men's national team pipeline, I would imagine DA is the best bet, but the academy system of an MLS team sounds like an attractive option as well. And then her second question is more of a request. She wants to know a little bit more about, now that we've got these Major League Soccer roster moves, it would be nice if we could go over a little bit of a refresher on GAM and TAM. So, Rob Pierce, can you do it quickly? Can you give us a little update on what GAM and TAM is? Because I'll tell you what, I read your article like 5 times. I still don't get it.
Sometimes when I go back and look at it, I don't fully understand it myself. But breezing through it, GAM and TAM are ways that you can pay down the salary budget hit that different players will have. There are different conditions that you can get GAM, and you can use GAM to buy down any player, designated player or not designated player. TAM, it must be a designated player that you're buying down. And there's a few different ways that you can get it, and there's a little more money that they've allocated for this year and next year. That's basically it in a nutshell.
And we do know, and we were looking this up. Our crack research staff, Brad Weigel, found it for us before the show tonight. That it looks like that FC Cincinnati, because they are an expansion team in 2019, are going to get a little more. I can't remember if it's Tam or Gam, Bry. Which is it for next year?
Probably a mix. It's probably a little bit of a mix of everything because they get additional general allocation money, which I kind of like to say is general allocation money is more towards, you can put it towards a lot of different places on your roster. I kind of like to say that is working on making spots on the roster maybe 7 through 12 or 7 through 15 on the roster better. Whereas targeted allocation money, and there's different levels and variations. You also have discretionary target allocation money, which is really more for your top 3, maybe even top 5 or 6 players to just make those players better. You saw Toronto bring in, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. He came from Barcelona, I think, or former high-end La Liga player. And he was you'd pay him essentially like a designated player contract, but you could buy down through TAM and GAM that his hit on the cap is lower than a designated player contract. So it's all about getting the quality of the league higher, but still fitting into that neat little package of a $4 million salary cap hit, but you still pay, your whole roster, $15 million. So he said, Will said that Portland was kind of small budget, but they still pay $11 million to their whole roster. So it can really get above and beyond the $4 million budget.
So that was their question about GAM and TAM. As far as the development academy goes, I still am not sure how that's going to play out with FC Cincinnati. There's a lot to be done there, and I know that was a big priority of Luke Sassano when he joined us last year when he was originally brought onto the club. Obviously getting the academy up and running is going to be big because you got to get that pipeline going for those youngsters so that you develop them and either get them playing for your major league roster, or maybe you get lucky and you're able to sell one like Vancouver did with Alphonso Davies. I know that's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime signing in Major League Soccer. I should say selling in Major League Soccer, but it's something that I know the club is going to address. How they're going to involve the local DA, I think that's still up in the air. So, Claire, we appreciate you emailing us. If you have a question for us and you want to email us, you can, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. So if you have more questions about GAM and TAM like I do, I'll just make sure I forward them on to Rob Pierce. Again, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to the Kings Hammer hotline. Let's welcome in Todd to the show. Todd, welcome to CST. How are you?
Hey, Sus. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How about you, bud?
I'm good, man. So I clued on to the feed while you were talking about our responsibility as fans, if we're going to kind of be nice with the USL for the rest of the year, or if we're going to maybe put our flag on the ground and say that we're Cincinnati and we're here for now, we're going to win the league and we're moving on. And I think we have, 6 or 7 home games left. And I apologize if I'm repeating what you've already said, because there's been some great conversation while I've been listening. But I think we need to figure out fan-wise with the visiting teams, with our banter online, with how we conduct ourselves. Either we're putting our flag firmly in the ground that we're Cincinnati, we're USL, we're moving on to MLS, and we kind of wave goodbye to the USL, and we go out in a blaze of glory and with a little bit of pompousness that I think we should. Or if we're going to be the friendly, accept everybody, we're kind with everybody for 90 minutes, you're our enemy, but we get a beer with you after the game. I think we need to figure that out, because I've seen some stuff recently on Twitter, on Facebook, and Reddit where we do a good job of bantering, but we're always nice and friendly, and we put our arm around everybody like Mikey Baldwin down in Louisville. But I think it's time, with all the trash talking from everybody else, that I'm kind of done being that friendly Mr. Nice Guy after the games and just go say hey, say good luck to them, but we're better than you. So wanted to get, your guys' thoughts on that, on how we should be moving on, because Jono, God love Jono. Jono had a good fire tweet today, and it's fired me up today. So yeah.
Well, when doesn't he? Jono on Twitter is, yeah. Look, I see where you're getting at, Todd, because the way I look at the way the USL has treated FC Cincinnati from a disciplinary standpoint the last couple of seasons, I'm kind of in the boat of you. I'm ready to say, hey, I'm going to keep it clean here, but screw you, USL. We're
Piss off.
We're gonna, we're gonna try when we win the league. Knock on wood. Walk away with fingers ablaze of glory. You know what I mean? That's the way I feel. The suspension to Welshman a couple weeks ago was a big turnoff for me. Obviously, what happened last year with GB, whether he did it or not, who freaking knows? But just the way that the league, I feel like, has treated FC Cincinnati and the front office, despite all the good things that FC Cincinnati has done for USL in these 3 seasons. To me, I think that's a big sayonara. And obviously, they want to play nice still because, maybe potentially down the road, FC Cincinnati has a USL D3 team or even a D2 team. So there's that aspect too, Todd, but I kind of agree with you. Rob, how about you? Are you a big, screw you USL, want to win the championship and run out in a blaze of glory?
Personally, I really don't get involved in the banter. I leave that to our professionals.
Just pass to Boston.
Boston, I know you got a take. Come on now.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. In fact, we have too many fans to try to control one direction for the fan base. I think there's going to be people out there that preach, let's leave the USL a better place than when we came in, and screw that guy. But we need to be respectful. That's all I ask. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go out there, have fun, banter, but don't go so far that it's ridiculous that you're LAFC. You know what I mean?
Just remember, everything can be screenshotted.
Yeah.
Or retweeted by the coach.
Well, hey, Boston, you just made a really good point. I think with the LAFC, we have some individuals in our collective, whether it's a supporters group, whether it's in the Bailey, whether it's out in the normal seating. They're passionate. They get involved. They're pro Cincinnati. But I think that we have a really good grouping of individuals that self-police. And I can only speak upon the groups that I personally interact with, which is Pride, DI, and the Bastards, and Jamie the Fake Brit from Mafia. All have good collective heads, and they recognize that when banter is banter and when it goes too far, we kind of reel each other in. So I don't think we're going to get to that LAFC level. We're going to bring in more people that want to see the MLS spectacle. Maybe this is a challenge for those listening. We have people like Chris Marshall. We have Bill Wolf, who I call Sir William of the Wolf.
Oh, I like
my
that.
name for him.
I'm using it now, Todd. I'm using it.
Yeah, that's all you, brother. But we have some minds in the Bailey.
Uh-oh, did we lose you? Todd, you still there? Oh, there he is. He's back now.
You got me? Sorry. We got some good people in that core of the Bailey that watch out for one another, whether it's the drums, whether it's, fan interactions, if we have new groups coming in that haven't been there before. And that's more or less a challenge out to everybody that we need to keep the passion going. But at the same time, we're going to watch out for one another. We're going to watch out when Chicago comes in, when DC comes in, when, whatever other team comes in with some wannabe ultras or ruffians. We need to look out for each other. And I'm putting it on record right now. I'm going after Mr. Congeniality. 2019 is the nicest guy in the Bailey.
Oh, I like it.
I'm not going to strike up any beef, nothing like that. I'm putting a prop bet out there that it lasts for 3 days. That's my prop bet.
Oh, that's great, Todd. Hey, we're in agreement, man. We appreciate you giving a ring, all right?
Love y'all. Thanks, guys. See
Thanks,
ya.
Todd. That's Todd on the King's Hammer Hotline. Let's go to another member of the Pride. Let's welcome in Kevin to the show. Kevin Wallace, Secretary of the Pride. What's up, Kev?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Hope you guys are buckled up for a long one. I feel like we're going to have a lot to say about today. So,
all right, what's on your mind, Kev?
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of blown away at the sort of negative reactions we're getting around the league from some of the front offices on the spending here, on our future considerations and loaning a couple of future MLS players down to our league. And I think a lot of it comes from this sort of weird place that a lot of American soccer fans feel like they're inadequate on like the international stage. They don't feel like the game's authentic enough. They got to make sure that it's the cool, indie thing that only they know about, that they're the gatekeepers of the sport, and they know what's authentic. They know what isn't authentic. They know how to sing. They know how to support. They know what a real club is versus a franchise, right? So we hear all that a lot. And I just wanted to point out, like, a couple of things for FC Cincinnati fans to sort of take heart in. One of them is the USL has no salary cap.
Yeah.
If we wanted to go out and buy Addy without MLS coming at all, we could. There's nothing in the league that says we can't do that. And we're using money that we are going to be getting in the future to do that. Just like we would if we signed a multi-year shirt deal sponsor, we would have that extra money and we would go out and buy a big-name player. I mean, nobody complained when Tampa Bay just bought Poku. Poku is a guy that should probably be on an MLS roster, and last year was making about as much as our entire team in the Open Cup. And nobody batted an eye. Tampa Bay is doing well for themselves. Spend a little cash. But I just want to point out an example here. The English Premier League is going to be starting up in a couple of weeks, and there's a new team joining, just got promoted, Wolverhampton Wanderers. The Wolves, Wolves, I should say, not the Wolves. Wolves, they recently got taken over by a weird, shady Chinese investment group that is also co-owned by super agent Jorge Mendes, who then went out, is a Portuguese guy, and he went out and signed all of his players to big contracts to go play for Wolves, and they just ran away with the championship and got promoted to the point where both Europe and the English administrations had to go investigate as to whether or not an agent could own part of a team. And it got really weird as to how all of this money was moving around, and everybody just went, A-okay, that's fine. It's just a fun fact. Wolves next year will have more Portuguese national team players on their roster than Benfica, Porto, and Sporting combined.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody's worried about the authenticity of the sport being ruined by us splashing a little bit of cash, take heart. Soccer's ruined everywhere. We can do our part.
Now, Kevin, I think you made some decent points there, but I'm honestly, I agree with pretty much what you said, but I'm going to offer kind of a counter argument here that I think a lot of the people out there that you see are more upset with how these players ended up at FC Cincinnati versus that they just ended up at FC Cincinnati. I think FC Cincinnati kind of did break a little bit of an unwritten rule that the USL has. It's kind of been always about groupthink. It's always been about the collective, and you don't go out and spend, billions or, $10 million on a roster. I think is kind of what you said. I think that kind of got thrown out the door a little bit recently with Tampa Bay, kind of, as I mentioned 30 minutes ago on the show, just kind of pulling the league forward. And I think that's what we're doing here. But I think right now is it really a good look with how these players ended up at FC Cincinnati? And I'm of the, people are saying, oh, you didn't pay cash. Well, damn, we definitely paid cash. We're paying $400,000 for these guys. That's basically taking $400,000 off the books of a Major League Soccer club. So, I mean, that's might not be a quote unquote transfer fee, but that's about as darn close as it can get in terms of the league.
Carl Under paid $150 million transfer fee.
You stole my thunder, my man. I said this offline, is that screw this. We paid the biggest transfer fee in the history of the league, of the USL. We paid $150 million to be able to go and make these moves. But all these people scream and complain. Things are not fair, but life's not fair.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Kev. Thanks for holding the night, and continue to best of luck there with the Pride. We know you're doing good things there.
Yep. Good luck, guys. Have a good show.
Thanks, buddy. It's Kevin Wallace, Secretary of the Pride, chiming in. Let's go now to Daniel, who wants to ask, what does this mean now for Danny Koenig next year? Daniel, welcome to CST. How are you?
Good, guys. Haven't talked to you guys in a while.
It's been a while. Thanks for holding. Appreciate your patience tonight.
Yeah. Hey, the thing is I've been seeing a lot lately. When Koenig gets the first touch, he can't settle the ball well enough. So I'm hoping that this helps him settle the ball and have someone else to pass to, and then be able to work it up the field better. That's what I've been noticing the last couple of times they've been overmanning him, and hoping that these players coming in will give him a little bit more leeway to run. Everybody's bogging down on him because of how many goals he's got this season. So I don't know if you guys think the same way, or am I just crazy looking at that?
Well, I think, too, the other thing you got to keep in mind with Koenig is he's not really although we have seen it a couple times this year, I don't really foresee him as a guy who's able to get in behind defenses unless they're really, really playing a high line. His first touch probably leaves a little to be desired there. I do think the partnership that he's developed with Ledesma has really, really flourished the last few weeks. So I'm looking for Koenig now that he's got a chance, because I don't see Adi and Koenig being on the field at the same time very often. That's just my personal belief. I don't think that that's what we're going to see from Alan Koch, but of course Alan could prove me wrong and go put them out there as the starting two forwards on Saturday night. But I think what you're going to see is Koenig now is going to get a little bit more of a rest. He's going to have some more games off, which is going to allow him to be more fresh. And maybe that helps improve his touch a little bit, Daniel.
Yeah, I don't think you're seeing Koenig go anywhere. He's still going to be on the field plenty. And we don't even know which games Adi's going to play, if he'll even play on a field like Louisville's. You know what I mean? So if anything, this hurts the bottom of the depth chart, the Amiobis of the world.
So there you have it, Daniel. Appreciate the call, man.
Talk to you guys later.
It's Daniel giving us a ring here on the Kings Hammer hotline. Again, we've got lines open, 513-399-KICK. We'll hang out for a little bit longer if you've got some comments, anything you want to add. Brad's still standing by, ready to take your call. One other note that we haven't really touched upon here on this program is it was announced last week that Alan Koch has signed a contract extension through the 2020 season, gentlemen. A lot of people praising the signing, and maybe there are some on social media that weren't exactly a fan. What's your take here? Is this more about continuity and keeping things at the club going, keeping it moving it forward as they transition it into Major League Soccer?
I would think so. You're gonna this will help FC Cincinnati bring in players that know that their coach won't be on the hot seat right away. It'll be a process, as we like to say, and the process is happening. He can bring in the players that he wants to see here in MLS with the help of Sassano and build something. And then if that doesn't work after a few years, then he might have something to answer for. But the continuity, I think, is what's most important there.
Okay, so if you're going to bring in a big name coach, and okay, I still think Alan's done a wonderful job this year, and I think he's earned this right. But I'm not sold that we're going to go and give the coach Alan in his first year a full complement of tools. So I'm not sure you go out and get somebody that's going to come in on a short turnaround and not giving him all the things he needs to succeed. I think that's just a bad look. Whereas Koch has been around here for some time. I think he knows kind of what he would like out of his team. I think it's a better fit, keeps the culture of the club together. And if it rewards some loyalty with Alan, but it also, if he does well in these first 2 years without a full deck of cards to play with, man, that's a good sign once we move into that new stadium going forward, when he can get everybody involved and everything he needs.
Yeah, and let's take a look, too. If you look at the recent history of new MLS sides that have joined the league, obviously NYCFC, they made a change after a year. Orlando City SC, they didn't stick with Heath for very long after he joined Major League Soccer. Obviously, he's still there with Minnesota United, so he's doing well there. Obviously, LAFC's got Bob Bradley. He's not going anywhere. So, look, it's correct me if I'm wrong, I think even Portland, when they joined Major League Soccer, they had a coach for 1 year before they made the switch. So, look, I think this is about letting Alan know, like, hey, look, we know next year is going to be rough. Year one in an expansion year, it's going to be rough. Don't worry about that. This is about building and trusting the process, as he likes to say. So,
I hate that term.
But it is. I mean, they're trusting what they're building here in 2019. It's gotten better here in 2018. I mean, how many of us at the beginning of the year sat here and thought that they'd be the number one point getter in USL as we headed to the end of July? I didn't see it. Did any of you?
I mean, they were like 1 or 2 points back of first place in all of our staff voting. So I think it's pretty close. It's like a coin flip at worst. But he's done a great job. And I think these signings today, at least, and you guys, Boston, Bill, or Rob, you can disagree. I think they go a long way into assuring that we aren't going to be piss poor and be like Minnesota was when they came out of the gate. Because you're going to have a guy like Adi who comes along, if he's healthy and he performs like he should, man, it's tough to be upset. I mean, you're already going to have 10 plus goals. And I think that it's just, teams are always struggling to find the guy that go get you goals. And I think having this move, regardless of what coach you have, is setting us up very well for the long term.
Yeah, we've talked throughout the year on what we want, and I honestly would say this is a little bit better than I expected. I expected a DP in the offseason, but I did not expect one this soon. I did not expect him to help us in the USL, and I didn't expect Adi. So I'm impressed. I still am keeping low expectations for next year because it's just history. Expansion franchises outside of the rarity come in, then they don't win an MLS Cup.
For the most part, yeah.
Rob, are you awake over there? Do you have anything you want to add?
No, there's nothing to disagree with from my perspective. Good signing. Both of them were good signings, and it's great that they'll be able to play for the rest of this year after all the I's and T's get dotted and crossed.
But as far as Koch goes,
oh yeah, look. The continuity is a big thing, and he'll be able to work with Audi and Alashe and get him into the system and get him where he thinks he needs to. Where he thinks that they need to be in the system, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. So that was the news, obviously broken last week. FC Cincinnati announcing Alan Koch would be extended to the 2020 season. So I would love to hear from you, folks. What did you think of the contract extension? What did you make of the two signings announced today by FC Cincinnati? Make sure you hit us up on our email address, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let's go to one last caller tonight and welcome in a good friend of the show, Yersky. Yersky, you've been holding very patiently tonight with no Wi-Fi somehow. It's 2018. I don't know how you don't have Wi-Fi, but what's going on, buddy?
It's just been really intermittent, so I've been able to follow along with the comments, but I can't actually get the video. So being able to listen to was really nice. I have two questions for you. With Alashe coming from San Jose, we kind of discussed that he had a history and a falling out My first question to you is, what is a bigger red card for you for Alashe? Is it the fact that he had the falling out and that there might be character issues, or is it his injury prone? Because 2 weeks ago, he had to come out of a game 4 minutes after being played for 4 minutes because of a supposed groin injury. Which one is a bigger red card for you at this point?
Look, I don't know if we ever got the full story or we'll ever get the full story of what happened a couple weeks ago there with the Quakes. It made some national headlines. It didn't look great for Alashe. It didn't look great for Michael Starre, the head coach there for San Jose. It's probably one of those things where, look, it's been a long year in San Jose. They're not playing the way that they were anticipating. They're in last place. They're the worst team in Major League Soccer. Maybe this is a case of, look, both parties just needed a fresh break. And so I think bringing in a young talent like Alashe, who has a chance to get a fresh start, is good. Nobody likes injuries. Obviously, FC Cincinnati have done their research, but the good news is for FC Cincinnati, and we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, is that, look, he's going to get some good opportunities to learn from some really good midfielders that have some really good experience. I don't know if he could say that in San Jose. And that's not exactly a culture in San Jose that I shouldn't say is committed to winning, but they have struggled in the recent years with some very head-scratching, very, very mystifying decisions in the front office and the coaching aspect. So I think it's good for Alashe. I don't really foresee any red cards as far as behavior goes. It's not like this is something that you were seeing week in and week out from this guy. It was a one-off dust-up that happened. Probably should have never been put in the game in the first place. Is that on Alashe or is that on the coach? That's kind of where I stand there.
I'm in line to agree with that. We've seen the kinds of players that Koch has brought in, the character, the players, and we've seen what good they can do in the community, on the pitch, off the pitch. And I'm also willing to think that this is kind of a one-off. Otherwise, I don't think Koch would have sought him out to begin with.
So there you go.
Yeah, and then
go ahead.
Can I one more thing? I saw yesterday that Pa Kanate is a possibility. How realistic is that? Because I've not seen anything official.
We don't have anything official yet from the club, although his Wikipedia page, if you trust that, says he's a loanee of FC Cincinnati. I mean, we play the Wikipedia game, although it's been a while since we played it, but we don't have anything official on that yet. But look, this team is going to continue to build. We've said it before. Where would this team be without Blake Smith right now? He's played a lot of minutes for this team over the last few weeks and months. So at some point, he's going to need a break too. So maybe that's a guy you bring in who can fill in there at left back. But nothing official yet from the club, Yersky.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
You're the man, buddy. Appreciate you holding.
Have a fantastic night.
You too. That's Yersky wrapping things up here on the King's Hammer Hotline. Great callers tonight. Good show. Might be a record for the longest show in CST history, which is a good thing because we packed it full with content. It's not like it was dull. It was a good show, a lot of banter, a lot of good stuff there. So any final thoughts as we begin to wrap up here on episode 126? I'll throw it over to Rob because I know it's late for him. He's normally not up past 10:30, although he has switched jobs, so he's not. He doesn't have to be up super early anymore. But final thoughts as we begin to wrap up, Rob.
Yeah, my final thought. We didn't talk a whole lot about the international friendly and tonight, and for good reason. There's today was full of big news, but I'm going to talk about the return of Tyler Gibson and him making his club debut. And for Mark Village. It was great to see both of them hit the pitch. Gibson, he got a shot off that darn near went in. He had a tackle. Village had a double save. So it was great to see those guys finally hit the pitch. And I know for Tyler Gibson especially, I cannot imagine the emotions that must have been going through him coming back from that injury and hitting the pitch for the first time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, too, because obviously he was a name this previous offseason that FC Cincinnati and Alan Koch was really banking on there at the defensive midfield position. And to see him go down like he did early in training camp was disappointing. But kudos to that guy for fighting back and getting back out on the field. So hopefully maybe we'll see him make an impact on the USL side here at the end of 2018. That remains to be seen. I also, I echo your sentiments about Coach Village. There's a small town on Twitter. He's a hilarious guy. But I will say this about Mark. For as funny and as a cut up as he is off the field, I watched him firsthand at training really bust his butt down in Florida, and I was really impressed with him as a goalkeeper. I genuinely think, he could be a starting goalkeeper in the USL. That's my take. I think he's a really solid goalkeeper. FC Cincinnati fortunate to have 3 really outstanding goalkeepers on the squad this year. So you're right. It was good to see Mark get out there and get some minutes for FCC. Appreciate all that you do, Rob. Appreciate you staying up late with us.
Good to be here.
Final thoughts from Boston Razzle Dazzle, Mr. PTO himself here on episode 126. Boston?
Just really going to talk about this week, and I'll be quick. Nashville's coming off of a kind of a heartbreak. They're down. They're in the dumps. The coach is going to try to have them respond, but honestly, this is a good chance for FC Cincinnati just to kick them in the gut and take 3 points at home, which we really need to do, especially after our poor showing down there, but walking away with a draw. Let's go get them, and I will vote for Nashville.
All right, Boston. Appreciate all that you do. Any PTO you're using up this week, or is it all 40 hours?
I'm working a full week, Subs.
Wow. Well, good for you, buddy. We appreciate you being with us. All right. Before I go throw it over to Bry, Liam on Facebook asked if either of these 2 signings have taken their medical.
Gosh, they were in training today, and there's rumored that Alashe was in town this weekend. So, gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, we have a bad history with that earlier this year. Anyway, let's move on. Bry, your final thoughts.
Man, you just wrecked me there, brother. Holy cow. I guess shout out to Jeff Erding, Alan, Luke Sassano, and especially Mr. Linner and the ownership that they actually went out and did this. They went and got this deal done. I mean, this is an expensive guy in Adi, and even Alashe. He's still a very quality player. 2 really good signings, and I think that the FC Cincinnati's doing what they said they'd do. They'd go out and invest. They tried to bring in the right guys. They tried to make this city proud. Now, I tend to be in the camp that these guys are more brought in for Major League Soccer and to acclimate a little bit to the group, because I think we're going to be bringing up several guys, at least probably 5 from this current roster plus these 2 or 3 that come in. So I think it's nice to have that mix there. But just credit to the ownership group. It's another reason why our fan base is bought in and we enjoy going to these games, because they're showing that they care, they want to win, and they're not half-assing it as it stands right now. So excited for 2019, excited for the rest of 2018, regardless of if Adi plays or not.
Good stuff, Bri. As always, appreciate you pumping out the content, not just here tonight on the show, but as well on the website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Bri did a really good job with the write-up this week regarding today's signing, so go check that out. Bri, appreciate it, buddy. Yeah,
we're going to have the guys from Speedway Soccer Pod, Ben, back on March to Match Day this week, so go and check that out. I think that'll come out Wednesday night.
Yep, so get subscribed to CST wherever you can find your podcasts. My final thoughts, just a reminder, we've got the CST Foot Golf Classic coming up on August 25th. Right now it's $180, but that price jumps coming up on August 1st to $200 for your foursomes. So get registered today. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf is where you can do that. If you're a single golfer, you don't have a foursome, but you want to come out and play, you can. You can log on, again, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf at Woodland Golf Course, 3 p.m. Saturday. It's 18-hole golf scramble followed by dinner at Westside Brewing. $180 get you foot golf for 4, 2 drinks at the course, dinner banquet, gift, whole prizes, and a donation, of course, to sports games for kids. And, of course, this wouldn't be possible without the help of Joe Savato, our main sponsor for this year's Foot Golf Classic. So, again, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf is where you can get registered. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of CST. My thanks to episode captain Jason DeBrewer. Jason, thank you so much for supporting us. For Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, Rob Pearson, Brian Weigel, I'm Subes, reminding you to watch your tackles. We will see you all next week.